The following program is rated GE. It is suitable for general family viewing.
Hi and welcome to another episode of The Grind. My name is Violet Njeki. Well, today we're going to do things a little bit different. You're used to seeing us actually go to businesses and see how they're doing their stuff. But today we're going to be learning. Today it's all about learning. We're learning about entrepreneurship, and I'm seated with one among the youngest entrepreneurs, prominent entrepreneurs rather, in Kenya, and he's done quite a lot in the production industry and media industry. He's actually flourished quite a lot. When you see him, you'll know why I'm saying this. And weirdly enough, he's also in the agriculture industry, but I'll not say much about it. I'll let him introduce himself just in case I say something wrong. And he's a prominent entrepreneur. Welcome.
Asante sana.
Please introduce yourself.
My name is Eugene Bugu. Yes. I'm an entrepreneur. I run several businesses, the main one being a TV production company called Documentary and Reality TV. We produce TV shows for the different channels in the country. We have Young Rich, which is our first TV show on K24. We have our Perfect Wedding. We have Get in the Kitchen, Story Yangu, Foods of Kenya, Bing Bahati, This Love with Wahoo and Nameless, so Family with Sauti Soul, and a few new ones on the way. So we have
quite a lineup.
It's quite a lineup. We have TV shows on almost all the major channels in the country. Yeah, and we do export to other regions as well, South Africa, some sections of West Africa. Mm-hmm. I also am one of the owners of a club in the CBD called Number 7, which is where we are right now. Yes. It's a cocktail bar. We just refurbished and expanded. Yeah, so those are the main businesses I own. I'm in farming as well, although not currently. Some friends and I run a feedlot called Bullocks. Mm-hmm. And what we do is we add value to beef. So we take the Maasai cows and feed them on molasses and grain, and they become premium beef, and we sell those off to restaurants. So just
off the bat, the Bullocks, is it because it's bulls?
Yes, it's a play. It's a play on the word. It's the English curse word. So it's a cheeky name.
So about entrepreneurship, when did Eugene decide I'm going to be an entrepreneur?
I think I don't know if I really decided that I was going to be an entrepreneur. Mine was more driven by need. Mm-hmm. I grew up very disadvantaged, and so from very early on, I was trying a bunch of different things to try and get by. And so what was my first business? When I was 17, just as soon as I turned 18. No, wait, I'm trying to figure out if I did some business in high school. When I was in high school in Upper Hill, I actually did sell, the mandazi shops. Yes. So there was one that was run by students in
the canteens.
The canteens.
Yes.
So I did that for a bit. Also, when I was in high school, still, some friends and I. There's a guy called Shirima. He's Tanzanian. Mm-hmm. Surprisingly, he owns a cocktail bar as well in Dar es Salaam. Mm-hmm. We used to get the plain white envelopes and then draw some graffiti on them and then sell them to students.
The calligraphy thing.
The calligraphy on the envelopes.
Yes.
Then we used to buy watches and put fake diamonds using super glue and sell them at a premium. So if you really think about it, that was my first stab at entrepreneurship. Then I think when I was 18, a friend of mine, Dexter, and I, we set up a company to teach basic film to primary school kids. And this is because I had worked odd jobs as a boom swinger and as an extra on some film sets. So that was the first real company I formed. But in between there, I also did a bunch of things before I found success in TV. Yeah. I had a tour company.
Wow, you've been in every industry.
I've been in a lot that failed terribly on the second tour. I charged my fellow university students some money to take them camping to Naivasha. So the idea was I was going to book the campsite, organize for transport, and get the guys there. Yeah. But then on the way, I was also buying booze for them. Yeah. So then on the way, I forgot it in a matatu. Yeah, so I lost the alcohol for everybody, and that's how the company collapsed.
Well, because you lost it.
Yeah, so I never got any other clients. I also did a bit of event organizing when I was in USIU still. Around that time, tattoos were starting to really take off. Like everybody was getting a tattoo. So I went around town and convinced all the major tattoo artists to pay me to organize an event where they would all come and showcase their tattoos. And Thursdays used to be a very popular evening in USIU, so I spoke to one of the local bars there, and they gave me a space. But then the guys came, people came, the tattoo artists came, they were actually able to sell some tattoos. But one of the neighbors, an older lady, came and said that we were doing devil worship stuff because, you know, the stigma.
Wow.
So then that also collapsed again.
That is how it went down the drain.
That went down the drain. Then I started another business selling 50 bob movies, you know, the
movie, yeah.
That one did well. I had that for 3 years. Yeah. I added some video games onto it, Xboxes and PlayStation. And if you go to SIU to this day, the structure still stands outside. So I've been, so that was sort of, I didn't really know that I was going to be an entrepreneur. I just tried a bunch of things until one worked.
One worked. Yeah. So from then on until now, how do you define success as an entrepreneur?
So my success has changed, my definition of success has changed over the years. So now, at my main company, I answer to a board and I have shareholders. So focus for me, success now is very much about giving a return to my shareholders. Yes. I do also have a big team that of course we pay salaries and success for me is also ensuring that I do them proud, that the company is able to meet the expectations, that we're able to grow with them. And then of course we also do have our viewers, the people who watch our TV shows and the customers, for instance, here who buy from us. Also just to ensure that we really do meet their requirements. We hope that we make the best TV shows in the market. So success for me now is very much about the stakeholders around me, not so much. Before it used to be very primarily money, and that still matters very much. Yes. But when as you grow bigger and the business around you becomes an institution, it starts to be about all the stakeholders.
Everyone that is involved. Yes. Yeah. So when it comes to entrepreneurship, does personality affect entrepreneurship?
Yeah, I think you have to have a bit of crazy in you to sort of take this audacious goal and run. I don't know what personality is tied to success in entrepreneurship, but I know mine. Yeah. I have a never say die spirit. Like, life will beat me down 10 times. I'll be crying down there, but I'm still going to get up the 11th time. So I think it does take that kind of audacity and also a lot of stupid self-belief to think that you're the man or the woman to sort of get it done. You know, it takes almost an absurd sense of self-belief. So I don't know. I'm sure there's scientifically there's some personality types that are more aligned to take the kind of risks that entrepreneurs take. Yes. But I know for me it's that never die spirit, the audaciousness, the stupid self-belief. Yeah. And
so when you were starting that early on, back in high school, up until now, did you get connections to help in entrepreneurship? And do you think that connections help for one when it comes to business?
I think when people call them connections, you're giving them a negative connotation. Now, it takes a village. Nobody gets any sensibly far ahead without the help of others. Yes. There is, at every level, there is someone who will hold your hand and just pull you up to the next level. Yeah. Now, if that's what you want to call connections, yes, but you see, it's a lazy way of terming it. Yes. Because, like in my part, I'm not from a wealthy family, but over the years, I've built relationships with much more successful people. Yes. People who've opened a lot of doors for me. This is mentors, this is older clients. Like I'll give you an example. So like for the first business that I mentioned that Dexter and I, my friend Dexter and I began, where we were teaching primary school kids basic film. It took Dr. Mary Okello at McKinney School to basically see these young kids. I remember one time we went to her and proposed we wanted to do a documentary, and we had never done one. And because I was in slippers and jeans, she actually asked me who my mother was.
Because of the way you were dressed?
Yeah. And I remember one time as we were trying to get that approved, there's that long hill up McKinney School. And we had come to see her and we hadn't been able to see her, and she was driving out and she saw us and she remembered us. And so we got into our car as she was driving home, and we had the business meeting there, and we got the...
In the car?
In the car. And we got the contract. Yeah. So that isn't really connections, but it's sort of someone who's at a higher level than you, seeing the work you're putting in and giving you that opportunity. You do always need connections to get ahead, but connections is a wrong word. You need networks, and you need to be seen by people who might help you get to the next level. So all along my journey, there's always been someone who's held my hand, and they continue to even now. There's a lot of learnings from older people.
Will I be right to call this networking?
Yeah, a large degree of it is networking. Like, I seek out people that I want to know, and I want them to know me. Like, I actively seek them out. And it's not just networking, you also have to have created value. Because remember, nobody will really want to meet you if you haven't really created value. So sometimes you have to do the groundwork and build something before you start getting the attention or the time of the people that you want to get to help you get ahead.
Yes. Yeah. So when it comes to, let me say in production, because we are in media industry, for our producer, you need to be creative, you need to think outside the box. But as an entrepreneur, do they need to have these ideals in mind when they're starting a business?
Well, as an entrepreneur, I think part of your job is you're constantly solving problems. And some of those have to be solved creatively, especially because of where we live. You know, our economies are not very well put together.
Yes.
So we are constantly just creating as we go. So yeah, you definitely need to be creative in problem solving. But I think I can confidently say that almost 90% of being an entrepreneur is fighting crisis. It's one of my mentors actually says it's akin to going to battle every single day.
Yeah.
So it's really, you have to have not really a creative mind, but a proactive mind. You constantly have to be thinking on your feet and figuring out solutions as you go.
Yeah. You said that you started with a lot of businesses before you got where you are. So even now that people are starting this biz 1 week, some of you are China, you're siwezi. Will you judge them at this point regarding to how you started?
Well, you have a time window when you can play around like that. So one of the things that worked out early for me was that I started very early.
Yes.
So the period I'm telling you between I was trying all these things, first of all, I was a student. Because I went to school, I joined university at the age of 18.
Yes.
And I joined university as a part-time student. So I used to go to class on most semesters between 5 p.m. and 9 p.m. Then during the day, I was playing around with all these different businesses. So you see, you fail quickly. You must fail quickly, and when you're very young, because then you have very little to lose. You know, there's no responsibility. You have no family. You have no bills you're paying.
Yes.
I mean, I was still living in just outside school.
Yes.
I was expected to be a full-time student anyway.
Yeah.
So there was no loss.
So judging in business was not part of it.
Yes.
Yes.
So you see, you can't still be trying one thing every week when you're 30. Things are a bit different then.
Yes.
So if the idea is start early, try a bunch of things, fail quickly. But then also, again, the whole notion of being an entrepreneur is if you fail at one thing, you have to be able to pick yourself up and do another.
Yes.
Of course, you have to give everything a fair chance. Now, the thing about this whole time when I was trying out all those different things, I was still doing production. I never stopped doing production. That was my love.
It was still at the back of your mind.
It was at the back of my mind. I was actively doing it.
Actively?
I was actively doing it. So while I was trying out, when I was trying to be a, so my first job was as a boom singer when I was 17. And I really fell in love with production and TV and all that. But then along the way, I was doing odd jobs. So this whole time I'm doing all these other things I'm telling you about, I'm still doing TV work when I can get it. I was writing for The Nation my whole time as a student. I was doing film reviews. Oh yeah, I write. I was doing film reviews. You see, because I wanted to learn about films. And what that used to do for me, it used to allow me to go on film sets because I'm writing for the papers. So it allowed me to go and see what Nairobi Half-Life are doing.
Yes.
I'd go interview different filmmakers and just basically learn what they're doing. But my excuse is that I'm writing for the paper.
Yeah.
So you see, this whole time, I've never stopped doing my primary job. It's just I was trying a bunch of other things, just like I'm doing now, because you can see I have the bar here, I have the farming, but I've never strayed away from my main work. And you see what that does over time, it pays you off. It pays off. Because I've been in production now for 12 years. So of course, it gathers the rolling ball, snowball.
Well, I'm learning quite a lot about getting to the journey of entrepreneurship and defining success according to Eugene Bugu. But you're going to take a short break. We'll be right back with more about entrepreneurship.
You are watching TV 47, the home of untold stories.
Sona moja imetengenezwa kwa njia spesheli ili kupambana na maumivu kwa haraka. Sona moja ina aspirin kama kiungo. Sona moja, kitulizo kamili. Maumivu yakizidi, pata ushauri wa daktari.
You are watching TV 47, the home of untold stories.
Welcome back to The Grind. For those who missed the first part of the introduction, my name is Violet Njeki, and today I'm talking to Eugene Mbugua, and he's teaching us all about entrepreneurship and how he's been able to succeed in the business industry, not only in one field, I think in 3, according to what he's mentioned, it's not even 3, quite a number, but he's been among the youngest successful entrepreneurs in Kenya, and that is why today we decided to sit down with him so that he can teach us about this journey. When it comes to investments, how do you know that you need to settle your mind on this investment because you don't know if this will pay off and this won't pay off?
I think with entrepreneurship overall, the whole idea is there's always a very high chance of failure and also sometimes a chance of success. Very high chance of failure because most businesses will fail. So for me, I think I lead with passion. At least for the businesses that I have currently. Actually, no, that's not true. I don't lead with passion. I lead with, I take the chances I get. So for instance, with television, it was the first job I got, and that's what I ran with.
So what you first see, you put your mind into it first?
Yes, and then if you do it for long enough, it pays off. Then in some instances, I also do go with interest. So like for instance, with number 7, this was born out of an interest of some friends of mine, and we used to like hanging out together. And so every bar we used to go to, I'm that annoying guy who's always asking questions about how much money they're making, how do you buy this from, what are the margins. And so just from that interest, we thought, hey, it'll be fun to own a bar together. So you see, that came from interest. But with television, for me, it came from, that's the opportunity I got, and that's what I took. So it's just, because you might fail, you might as well try to do something that you enjoy, at the very least. Because I can imagine there's nothing as bad as waking up every day to something that you technically don't
You're
enjoy.
tired in the morning just waking up.
But passion is overrated. More often than not, it's practicality. Because for instance, if you're born into a farming community and that's the opportunity that you know you have and you can take very quickly, you should take it.
Not like, my passion is in med, let me go to med.
I mean, you could have a great passion to be an astronaut, for instance. And don't get me wrong, a lot of people can get the opportunity to be an astronaut. But sometimes if what you're going for is success, you just might need to make some practical choices and go for what opportunities you have right there and then. And then maybe you work on them and build as you go. So for me, it's practicality and also interest to some degree.
Yeah. So when it comes to marketing, you need to put your business out there so that people can know this business that is run by this person. For you, you've been able to capture quite a bigger audience with numbers that are known. How can one be able to market themselves to put yourself in the market, quite stand out in the market?
Yeah, I think in today's age, one of the easiest things one of the biggest things we have is the internet, of course. Yes. You have Instagram, you have Twitter, you have Facebook, you have YouTube, and all the rest. And it's never been easier to sort of put your stuff out there and let the world know what you're doing. So for me, I think I had one advantage, of course, being in TV. It's one of those fields that's quite heavily reported on. And also working with celebrities does help to some degree. So I would say that was of great help to me, at least in terms of marketing my products. But then also, just how you live your life is a big marketing tool. Like for instance, I feel like now a lot of people do follow me because of my daily routine.
Yes.
I do share my wins. I do share my processes. I share the knowledge that I have. And you'll be surprised, interestingly, how many people will be down to support whatever it is you're doing if you share knowledge with them.
Yes.
The sharing economy, it's an interesting way of looking at things.
Yeah.
But yes, I would say, like, if you're doing something and you're looking to get the word out there, create as much content around it, publish it yourself on social media, try and make the information as useful to other people as possible, and yeah, it blows up over time.
Yeah. So even as you market yourself, you still have the notion of capital in your mind. Like, will I be able to move this to the next month? You're calculating rent, you're calculating stock. How are you able to put a consistency in capital so that your business can stand?
So capital is interesting in the sense that at the beginning of every venture, you sort of have to bootstrap, which is what we did for a long time as well. We are working on, at least for the main company, documentary and reality TV. We for a long time, we relied on our own revenue and sales to sort of grow. But there's a limit to that. We've always had partners in the sense of banks. We've always been able to borrow as we went along. But then just not too long ago, about a year ago or so, we took in investment. And what this allows us to do is to grow faster than our generic rate. So we're no longer just relying on the revenue we bring in. We say we have this bigger dream, we need this much more capital, and so to get to this dream. So we actually took in investment, sold part of the shareholding of the business. We are now governed by a board, as I mentioned earlier. But you see, that's not a thing you wake up and get to.
Yes.
You must have proven your business case first, because investors in most cases will look at a track record.
They want to see what you're doing.
Yeah, they want to see a record of sales. They want to see a structure in the company. They want to see systems. And for us, before I think we had almost 7 years of audited books prior to us taking in investment. So it sort of took us proving our model before we could access external capital. But in the beginning, you still just have to bootstrap and find ways of first of all, breaking into the business with as little capital as possible. So for instance, for me, what I did with my first few businesses, we always got into businesses that required little to no capital.
Yeah, minimum at the time.
Yeah, so for instance, our first business, which was teaching primary school kids basic film, we needed, I think, 300 bob for the cyber cafe and 1,000 bob to print proposals. And then when we eventually started teaching, we borrowed cameras. When I got my first TV show, I borrowed equipment from my schoolmates and then borrowed money from my friends. So you see, it's just about being ingenious and taking a chance on yourself. Yes. Then, of course, as you start to have some revenue coming in, you must put it back in the business, hope that it grows and grows and grows, and then at some point, then you can start thinking about accessing external capital.
Yeah. So even as you talk about putting this capital in your business, the people who actually say that this business is birthing this other business. Is that a good thing in entrepreneurship? Like, let this business grow this other business.
There's an element of spreading a risk across several businesses, but there's a risk there. You shouldn't invest operational money from one business in another. Only profits from one business to another. Not operational money. Because you have a lot of cases where you have a business person who has two businesses, and they are delaying salaries on one side to be able to finance things on the other side. And what happens after a while is they start to cannibalize each other. So for me, for instance, at the very beginning, one of the things that I did to be able to invest in these other businesses, I relied on profits from my first business. And now we barely, at the moment as it stands, we don't have any money crossing from the different businesses I run. So all of them run independently. Yes. If this business needs to borrow, it borrows by itself. If it needs to sustain itself, it sustains itself on its side. So we don't have any money crossing over. But that's also because of governance structure. Because now we have one business that's governed by a board, so pretty much every decision that's made there has to be approved by the board, it's the price you have to pay if you want to grow sustainably to the levels that we want to grow. So you see, then we have that separation of businesses. Some people do it successfully, but I personally have always had that discipline of the separation from between the two businesses.
So even when you talk about governance, when it comes to the government, do you think they're doing their part when it comes to helping entrepreneurs to get to the level that they need to be?
I mean, there's always something to complain about government. We could all very easily list all the things that are not being done as we would hope they will be done. But for me, and I know this is a bit escapist, I like to just focus on what I can change. I'm a big believer in, as opposed to sitting outside and complaining about it, I try to get into the room where the decisions are made and try to influence those decisions from inside. So if you notice, for instance, I interact a lot with politicians.
Yes.
I'm constantly trying to meet with them. Like at this level, at this point, I'm actually meeting with different presidential candidates to just sort of, and it's not just me, I mean, I'm part of a group of young entrepreneurs, we do it together. And we go and meet with these potential presidential candidates, leaders in positions of influence, especially where we are affected. And we try and lobby for the things that we think should change. And I find that that's a bit more efficient than sitting on the outside making noise. Of course, you must remember also that government is a representation of the people.
Yes.
Their failures are our failures.
We chose them.
We chose them, and we continue to.
Yeah.
An election is coming up, so we have another opportunity to then change things again. So there's a lot of things that we can complain about government, but from where I sit, at least, I try to be a bit more proactive, not worry too much about the things I cannot change. Because, for instance, if you're a young person, you're 19, you've just cleared school, and you're trying to get into business, I mean, sitting there and complaining about government doesn't get you very far, does it? You have to just do what you can with what you have. That's my stand. I find it not very useful to just sit and complain.
Yeah. So you will actually advise entrepreneurs to talk to your leaders, because these are the people who are going to change your business.
Yeah, there's a lot of power in advocating for whatever your stand is. And it takes work. It takes you rallying together, forming almost like a lobby group and going to these places and defending your case. It takes, and I think most importantly, it just takes your vote.
Yeah.
If you're constantly saying no to bad systems of governance, of course, it's not enough. It's not enough for one person to just complain. There's a lot of institutional change that is needed in the country. So I would say, like, on my part at least, I do what I can. I try to see in instances where I can go into the room and try to get some change done. And then what I can't control, I just don't spend any time worrying over, and I instead channel all my energy and focus on what I know I can change. Yeah.
So we talked about passion in the first part about in business, but what are the key things that you will tell an entrepreneur to focus on so that their business can prosper?
I think the key things will vary from business to business, but for me, the things that I focus on heavily are constant learning. We live in a world where everything is changing constantly, and if you want to sharpen your understanding of anything, you have to have an ability to learn how to learn. So I spend a lot of time, like every morning I wake up, I spend about an hour and a half reading, at least on most weekdays, not unlike today, for instance, I'm here instead.
Yeah.
But I try to dedicate a certain amount of an hour to an hour and a half daily to just reading and learning. Learning is very, very important. It keeps you progressive. Then networking is very, very important.
Yes.
Who you know, how you know them, who knows you.
Oh, who knows you as well?
I know Bill Gates, he doesn't know me, so that's not really a network, is it?
Yeah, no.
So who knows you is very important. I spend quite a bit of time just interacting with people. I host these soirees in my garden where I invite different interesting people that I want to work with or that I look up to. And I intentionally seek out people that I'd like to learn from. So that element of networking is very, very important. I would say those are the top two things. And then I think the rest vary from business to business. And all of them can sort of work well into those 2 points.
Yeah. So there's this saying that, there's this saying that there's no friendship in business. Do you live by this?
No. There's a lot of friendship in business. I do business with friends. Like for instance, as I mentioned, number 7 was birthed by a group of friends. We came together, we enjoyed spending time together, and we actually started the business together as part of being friends. I'm not a believer in the zero-sum kind of doing business where there's winners and losers. I believe that everybody can actually win. So I'm a big believer in doing business pleasantly where you can. Of course, I'm very firm. That's not to say that I'm just friendly. I'm all smiles.
Yeah,
I'm
but
very,
it comes to business.
But I do believe you can have both friendship and success. And I do business with my friends as well.
Yeah.
And I think people overall, the world over, people do business with people they like. So the element of not having friendship in business, of course I know what you mean by friendship shouldn't get in the way of business, for instance. Like my friends don't come and drink here for free.
Pay money.
In that sense, yeah. But I do business with friends.
So for most entrepreneurs, most of them, or even people who are business-minded, most of them, the thing that hasn't put them out there is the fact that they have fear and procrastination. What advice will you have to someone who wants to start a business but something is holding them back?
Yeah, you'll always be afraid. The world is a very fearful place. I mean, there's a lot of uncertainties.
Yeah.
The trick is to move ahead regardless.
Yeah.
And it's easier said than done because, again, it's a very, very scary thing. And all of us are scared, to be honest with you. I'm scared all the time that I'll fail all these people. I'm scared that all of these things that I'm saying I will do might not work at all. I'm scared that tomorrow I'll wake up as the pandemic happened and I'll lose everything. But you just have to wake up every morning and keep doing it anyway. Now, to procrastination, I would say there's a quote: start today where you are with what you have. Like you could always procrastinate, but what you can do today, do today. Start today where you are with what you have.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your insights on entrepreneurship. Well, that's all we have for you today. And Eugene has told us that start where you are with what you have to make your business grow. I've learned quite a lot when it comes to entrepreneurship. And me and the 3 businesses that I'm about to start, I think I got the advice that I needed. Well, that is all we had for you today. My name is Violet Njeki. And until next week, when you get another business, another entrepreneur, don't forget to talk to us on TV47 KE on all our platforms. Till next time, see you soon.
We value your feedback. If you would like to send questions, comments, or suggestions for your